Hello, everyone. Welcome to Turn One Talk, your weekly podcast covering all Formula One rumours, happenings, news, and speculation. This week, we're in the brief period of Formula One's autumnal break. However, still got to do our weekly podcast, don't we, CJ? So, starting out with the first news of this week, or the biggest news of this week, Will Courtenay, head of strategy, is leaving Red Bull after 15 years or 13 years with the team. First thoughts?
Well, it's not just the fact he's leaving the team; he's leaving to go to McLaren. So I think we spoke last week, didn't we, about how McLaren seemed to have they had the right drivers, they had a good car, but operationally they were a little bit behind.
Yeah,
So picking him up is a great plus for them. It's a damaging blow for Red Bull again to lose someone of that caliber to you, uh, and to lose it to at the minute who is your biggest competitor and is now beating you in the championship is massive.
exactly. Yeah, it's that's three now, isn't it? That's gone from Red Bull. Three senior managers. You've got obviously Will, not Will Wheaton, Jonathan Wheatley, uh, Jonathan Wheatley, Adrian Newey, and now Will Courtenay as well. So it's seismic, really. And as you say, McLaren to poach one of them is. Yeah, Red Bull's in some serious trouble. It seems like everyone's jumping from the sinking ship. Red Bull seem fairly confident, as you would on surface level, to all your sponsors. Seem fairly confident that we don't need them guys. We don't need to worry about them. They can go wherever they want. It's still going to be the same Red Bull. But this is very telling for how 2026, at least, is going to shape out for them. And obviously 2025 as well.
Yeah, indeed. Uh, to lose this many people that are key to your team in such quick succession as well. Every single one has gone to a different competitor. They're not just all jumped ship to one. You've got an Aston Martin leaving there. One of them's jumped ship to the new Audi team. One going straight to McLaren. It's not great for you, is it? So
No, not great at all.
where are they going to bring people in either? That's the thing. We've not heard of any big signings from Red Bull. I haven't anyway. There might have been one or two that have sort of crept under, but
You had
I haven't heard.
Giampiero Lambiase go up a position, didn't he?
Yeah, but that
Technically.
it kind of shows you where they're at. I think they are scrambling.
Yeah,
I
very
don't know
much
why
so.
either. It doesn't. It's all months ago. This wouldn't have been. You wouldn't have ever dreamt that this would be the case.
It, it's strange, isn't it? Because you'd think that a team that's on the back of two constructors championships, that were at the time looking at the third before everyone started jumping overboard and scrambling for other boats. It's strange that people would make that decision. Obviously, you've got the argument that could be made that Red Bull have reached their ceiling, so to speak, in terms of successfulness, and there's a lot of people that have a drive to make something of a team rather than continuing the success of a team. So maybe that's something that can be played. I know that Adrian Newey said that he likes to build something up rather than he doesn't like to go in when it's successful. But yeah, it's very strange for it to happen in such a way so quickly. I think it's been in the past 5 months that all three of them are left.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, which kind of lines up with, does that line up with China?
Uh, I think
Does
it
that
probably
line up
lines.
with China? I need to confirm that because in
It probably
that,
lines up with the Christian Horner thing ending, doesn't it? And the fact that he didn't leave his position.
yeah.
That's probably where it lines up as the most. That's probably the most crucial point, I'd say.
So do we think it's a questioning of the leadership of Red Bull that has led these people to, okay, the leadership isn't changing, so I've got to change where I am. I've got to change my leadership myself by moving to a different team.
It could be the case of I think the suspending of that member of the Red Bull team could be seen as a problem. I mean, Christian Horner could be innocent and was found innocent twice, and that's done and dusted. And maybe it's a case of other people, even though he may be innocent of what he's done, he is what was alleged he had done. He has maybe crossed a moral boundary, and maybe that's the case where people have questioned that and gone, well, they don't really. Maybe they thought they had an opportunity, to say, to get in. I think Jonathan Wheatley was touted at one point for the team principal role, taking over, and obviously when that didn't come to fruition, he gets offered the same job at Audi.
Yeah.
He's gonna go. He's gonna go take that. So maybe that's the sort of
Yeah.
thing.
So yeah, I guess like once you get to senior management, the only real place you can get to from there is being in charge. So I guess if you can't make that career move, then you have to move your career somewhere else. Like it's just interesting that they've all decided to do it in a period of 5 months. But like you say, maybe it was over a moral discussion that they all decided to make the change. But I don't see Red Bull continuing to be at the top, or I think they may even return with this. I think they may even return to the third best team standing that they used to be for through the entirety of the 2010s. Not through the entirety of the 2010s. That's wholly false. Through the second half of 2010s, they
The
were the
turbo
third best
hybrid
teams.
era.
Yeah, the turbo hybrid era. There you go. I guess we're still in the turbo hybrid era, though, aren't we? Technically
Of the
speaking.
tens, I mean,
Yeah,
of the tens.
of the tens.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Then
save
it's
me that way.
it's
Yeah, there was only a
yeah,
brief period of 4 years of dominance that we're just gonna put in there.
just gonna glaze over that.
Just
Didn't
gonna
happen.
glaze over that. But yeah, they were very much the third best team after Mercedes started dominating the sport with the Renault engine at first, and then Honda finding its feet to begin with.
And then an engine freeze at just the right time for them. But
Yeah, just lock that in the moment that Honda have got themselves together. That's
yeah,
still painful to me that they managed to do that. It's ludicrous.
it's more painful that they managed to get away with calling that engine an RB engine and then still getting extra dyno time for 2026 as a new engine manufacturer.
Yeah,
So it's either one or the other. But hey ho, yeah, there's a lot of toxic shit going on at Red Bull.
yeah,
I don't know if we're allowed to swear on it, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
the first time I have. I
Toxic
mean,
shit is perfectly fine.
it's. I think that's the best way to look at it. I mean, obviously Horner wasn't getting on with Joss. I mean, that's your lead driver's dad. Uh, it might sound trivial, but to a point where that's where all the rumours really started of Verstappen leaving the team. And if that happens and you start personnel, your drivers are looking to leave, and you've been backed basically to the hilt at that point by the owners, the tie owners anyway, you're going to be the one which gets to blame if this all goes wrong. And it's
Yeah,
probably going to take a little while. It depends if they've got it. They couldn't really have if they have a dominant engine come 26, then nothing's going to really change. There probably still will be. I think the issue there probably will be one of the fastest teams. You said about the sort of turbo hybrid era being the third fastest. That wasn't really on them. There was maybe
no, it
one year,
wasn't.
maybe 2015, where you could argue that was a poorly built car. But the rest of the time, they just had a deficit in the straights, and they didn't have the power. If they can keep the power for 2026, I don't see any reason why they can't build a fast car. But I don't think it will be dominant like we've seen even in that period from 2010 to 2013, where that was a dominant car at times.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll see what we've seen in the past 2 years either.
Hopefully, after the new regulations come in, we're not going to see one team be wholly dominant, and if they are, not for long. It's good because otherwise, it's just going to be painful to go from this exciting, close battling, where this championship, whether or not it's realistic to look at it, is going down to the wire.
Yeah.
So, and then the next championship, I feel, will be close as well in some respects. So I just hope that they don't ruin it. But
The
it's
only hope if one team is dominant is if it's the Mercedes engine, because at least at that point you've got multiple teams which have got a fast engine
yeah.
and they can build a car around it. Uh, Obviously, we saw that didn't work out too well last time,
Oh, we
but
could see Ferrari build a dominant engine, and then it'd be Ferrari and Haas at the front.
not a legal one.
Yeah, yeah. We'll skip over that. Anyway.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Yeah. So that's Adrian Newey, Jonathan Wheatley, and Will Courtney. 3 managers have all gone out of Red Bull. and Red Bull's looking very dicey at the moment. Someone else who has left the Red Bull family or left a team, let's say, is Daniel Ricciardo, who we spoke about last week, obviously being rumored to be leaving and it being his last race. And this was after the race that we discussed it, and it was very obvious that he was gone. But now it's been made official. Just your general thoughts on his exit, really, is all I'm after.
It's a real shame. Yeah, 8-time Grand Prix winner. It's not the way you want to see him go, but he wasn't blowing Tsunoda out the water, I don't think. And Tsunoda's not going to be a driver I can ever see being in the Red Bull alongside Max Verstappen. So if you're not doing that, then there's probably, what are you in the sport for at that point? It's probably
Yeah.
fair to say.
Yeah, that's fair. Speaking on not the way you'd want him to go, though, what do you think of the lack of ceremony and the lack of him not knowing whether or not he's actually gone, or if he did know, he couldn't confirm it, so he didn't really get in my opinion, he didn't really get the hero send off that he kind of deserved after a long career in Formula One. I don't think a Formula One career has to be littered with success for someone to put respect on your name. But what are your thoughts on the lack of ceremony and the lack of being able to talk about it?
The lack of being able to talk about it's a difficult one, especially when everyone knew that he was gone, and it's sort of the wrong time. I mean, if you look at it from the Red Bull point of view, they probably would have wanted to have done it like that. They probably had to get Liam Lawson in that car via that point. Otherwise, it would have been a case of being able to talk to the teams for 25. I think that was a suggestion that was going around. And at that point, it becomes a cutthroat business. You have to put one driver in. I don't think they'll have wanted to do that to Daniel Ricciardo. It is a shame the way it happened. Sometimes those things can't be avoided. And he got the fastest lap at the end, didn't he? Which was out of pure a pure send off for him. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
happy days.
Happy days for Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah, he managed to pick up that fastest lap that didn't give him a point, and it took away a point from another team. But that was all him. So he's been replaced by Liam Lawson, who, after the announcement, there's been a lot of hate for Liam Lawson over Twitter at least, and wherever the post has been made. What do you think of that?
Well, there's a lot of idiots on Twitter.
Very true.
It,
Yeah.
it's not fair on him. It's not. It's not his fault. I mean, who's going to turn down the chance to get in a Formula One car? They're just not. And it's not his fault that Daniel Ricciardo's not kept his side of the bargain. Otherwise, it'd be Ricciardo in Perez's seat, and Perez would be out of the sport, and Liam Lawson would still be in anyway. So you'd have a bunch of angry Mexicans on Twitter. So it was always going to be someone that was upset about it, and it's not his fault. And I'm sure they'll prove them wrong and give them something else to be upset about in the future.
We've seen this kind of attitude as well when Mick Schumacher was ousted from Haas, and everyone rather than turn the attention to the driver's performances and the driver's ability to keep the car out of the wall, they instead turned on Gunter Steiner and made it his problem that Mick Schumacher had been replaced by Nico Hulkenberg. It was very interesting to see that all play out, and again, it's happened here where Liam Lawson is just, he's drove decently last season when he filled in, and now he's got the opportunity to take a Formula One seat, and as you said, he now has that. You wouldn't pass up that opportunity, and yet still people will lambast him for living out his career dream. It's weird, isn't it? The way that people think, but oh well. What do you think? Do you think he'll perform well towards the end of the season? I mean, he's
Yeah,
going to be straight into the
yeah.
car.
Fingers crossed he starts beating Tsunoda and starts beating him fairly quickly. I think that way you get a strong question mark over what happens for 25. There's obviously loopholes in Perez's contract that have probably been. It would now be viable for Red Bull to be able to get him out of that contract, probably via performance clauses. I don't think they would have given him a contract for 25 after the Belgian Grand Prix if there wasn't.
Yeah.
So, hopefully if he performs well, there's a chance that you could even see him going up into the Red Bull team, and maybe even seeing Hajar come into the team. You said last week that obviously Ricardo's in the driver pool. I don't see that happening. I think that is now Ricardo done. I think everyone around seems to think that's Ricardo done as well.
His so it was still in my mind at that point, but his tweet after his post, basically, I don't know where it was made, but his post after it was finally announced was very much telling of, "I'm retiring. This is me on my way out." So then, yeah, it's no longer a thought in my mind that could happen. It's going to be Isaac Hadjar that would probably come up through the seat into one of them seats. Sergio Perez has slapped back at people saying over Instagram that essentially that he's going to be retiring after Mexico, and he's responded with the Wolf of Wall Street "I'm not leaving" meme. So I
He
don't
doesn't
know.
get a choice.
He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't get a choice for one, and for two, like for him to act that way, to act like the the speculation and the rumors are unfounded. It's quite brave, isn't it? Considering that he's not putting a stellar performance at all throughout the entire year, and he's telling these people to be quiet, essentially.
Brave
Like
is a very nice way of you putting it. It's complete bonkers, it's daft. You're not doing yourself any favors, unless he thinks that his contract is absolutely so watertight for next year that he's in that seat regardless. I mean, there's no way that it is. So yeah, I don't know what he's on. He must, unless it's a case of trying to psych himself up to in his own head,
that's a
kind of
good way
fake
to
it till
look
you
at
make
it.
it sort of fake it till you make it sort of thing. I mean, that's probably the only way you can sort of look at that with sanity and go, fair enough. Otherwise, it just looks stupid. But hey ho, it's one of them.
Yeah. So I can see if this happens, I can see Liam Lawson performing well over Yuki Tsunoda, and then it being Yuki Tsunoda, Isaac Hadjar, and Max Verstappen alongside Liam Lawson in the Red Bull. I nearly said RB then, short for Red Bull, but it's not, is it? Anyway, yeah, but I can see that. I can fully see that happening.
Yeah, I reckon. Uh, we'll see. What so next race? If Perez is down the order again, at what point do they end up putting Lawson in before the end of the year into the Red Bull?
I don't think they do.
You don't think they do? If he's that bad, do you think you're going to stick it out to Perez to the end of the year now? If they think there's any chance they can get a hand on this constructors at all, and they see Liam Lawson doing wonders in an RB car,
I mean,
and
it depends on. So it depends on Perez would have to, McLaren would have to not run away with it before they can decide. Because if McLaren are already at a point where it's like, okay, we can put Liam Lawson in and he'll score, maybe he'll score some decent points, enough to maybe catch up. It's only going to be small points because Norris is performing well, and the only one that has off days, really speaking, the only one that has off days is Oscar Piastri. Norris, as much as we say like he can't do it, this, that, and the other, he does finish high, and it's Piastri that does sometimes have these lemon races where he finishes fifth, fourth, outside that podium. So really, it'd be Liam Lawson against Oscar Piastri, and he'd only be able to score a handful of points over them. And again, it'd be an argument about Red Bull's constructors and drivers also depends on how many drivers finishes between them and Norris and them and McLaren. It's multiple questions, and basically it all comes down to if McLaren run away with it before Red Bull get a chance to decide whether or not they've got a chance to put Lawson in and see if he can score any points. If that happens, if they don't run away with it, then I can see it happening. If they do run away with it, then there's going to be no point. They may as well just keep Perez until the end of the season and save the drama. Because if they take Perez out, it will probably be Perez demoted to RB for the remainder of the season, do you think? Because they're not going to pull Isaac Hadjar out of F2 when he's in the mix for the title.
yeah, I think does the F2 season fall? I think it falls a little bit. Does it not fall earlier? than the F1. I know
Yeah,
the
it does.
title, the actual showdown ends on the same sort of time. Actually, is that the case?
I
I
think
feel
the
like Piastri won his earlier than the end of the season.
so look.
I mean, it is an unlikely shout. Don't get me wrong, but I just think if Perez is going to be seventh, eighth, and Verstappen's
It's a question
fighting
to
for the
be asked,
podium,
isn't it?
you'd think they might take the chance if they've got it. If they've got a chance of still getting the constructors at that point.
No, the last race is on the sixth of December, which is also the same weekend as is the last weekend is between the 6th and the 8th of December, which is the same weekend as the final race in F1. And there's 4.5 points between Bortoleto and Hadjar.
Close then.
It's very close, yeah. Got two more races though. It's only two more races between them. At the end of the season, you've got Lusail is the next one, and then after that is Abu Dhabi.
Ah,
Right.
two brilliantly entertaining races.
Yeah, it's been the end of the season was Baku, Lusail, and Abu Dhabi, which I find to be an absolutely ludicrous lineup of races, considering what's in between that. I wonder if they'd ever do Brazil or ever put Brazil back in. I'm pretty sure Brazil would have hosted an F2 race before, but weird, isn't it? Anyway, Liam Lawson. I suppose we can touch on. We've actually got through this a lot quicker than I thought we would. We're 20 minutes in. We're like firing through this. Alpine. This is not Alpine Formula One. This is Alpine WEC. They're expecting to try and keep Mick Schumacher for 2025, but Schumacher's still targeting the 2025 seat in F1. How realistic do you think that is, considering there's only one seat left? Zero. Yeah. So we can very much expect to see Mick Schumacher in the Alpine in WEC next season. Do you think Mick Schumacher's F1 dream should be just squashed at this point?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's not. It's not. Right. The thing is, there's a lot of people out there that love Mick Schumacher because his last name is Schumacher. If he was blooming, I don't know, Mick Button, for example, I don't know, that's a bad example
That's a
because it's obviously
terrible
another
example.
driver's
I'm
name.
about to say Mick
But
Butter
just
would have had just as much love.
right, yeah, you would Mick Copperberg, right?
Right.
Mick Copperberg,
Yeah.
right? New Swedish driver on the grid
I
that's come
wonder
in.
if you've got a particular beverage near you at this moment in time.
No, no, Mick Copperberg, yeah, sweet, brand new Swedish driver, right?
Yeah.
Straight out of Stockholm, brilliant. Comes on the grid,
Amazing.
smashes up loads of cars constantly, gets outperformed by Kevin Magnussen in a really sort of humiliating way. At what point do you turn around and go, "Sorry, mate, your days are numbered"? You can go to driving WEC, and you can be you can score a podium over there. You don't bring him back, do you? You don't bring
Not
back Mick
even
Copperberg.
for the Audi seat.
No, because Mick Copperberg at that point Swedish. There's no sort of German link either.
Okay, yeah, maybe. That's a good point.
I mean, in my head, it's nonsense. It's no, he's not good enough. Oh, is he going to win the world championship?
I wonder why he's sticking around so much though, because he did win the F3 and he won the F2, and obviously he went with Haas and he did crash up the cars and his performance was low. But why is he still on the radar of some teams? If he
Oh,
was
oh,
that bad, like obviously Mercedes keep him around as a reserve driver, sure they could have another reserve driver that
who's he on the radar of? Mercedes. I mean, he was a
is
Ferrari junior driver, and they dropped him. He's not. He's not on the top team list. The thing is that the Schumacher family in Mercedes, it goes sort of hand it from the sports cars to the 2010s when Schumacher rejoined them and helped them become the team that they were, right? And there were links through that. Mick Schumacher is never going to get into a Mercedes team. He's never going to get into an engine. Like he's never going to get into a Williams. He's not going to get himself. If he gets himself into an Audi, then
Well,
fair
that's
play to
that's
him.
definitely been decided that he's not getting into a Williams, hasn't it? After what
No, but
James
that's what I
Vowles
mean. He's
said.
not. He's not getting. There's no. Well, yeah. There's no team he can get himself into. In, Red Bull aren't going to pick him up and put him into AlphaTauri or the RB Visa Cash App nonsense. They're not going to put him in there. They're not going to put anyone in in the Audi team. I mean, if you just wouldn't do that. Uh, he was dropped from the Ferrari Junior Academy when Bonotto was in charge of Ferrari. So I don't know why you'd hire him then.
Mm. Yeah, I think to target a drive in Formula One. I mean, how old is he now as well? He's not exactly a spring chicken anymore, is he?
The thing with Schumacher was that everyone talked about, it's his second season where he gets the grip of the car. Like the F3, it's his second season. The F2, he needed his second season, and he was right. I think he won one feature race all year in F2. And it's not disrespectful. He's obviously, as drivers go, he's up there amongst the elite, probably top 50 drivers in the world. Fair play to him, brilliant stuff. But, and there is a but, you had the chance in Formula One. How many years was it? 2? I think it was 2
Yeah,
years.
2 years.
2
Once against
seasons.
Mazepin, once against Magnussen.
And it wasn't great. So,
And yeah, to touch on his age, he's 25, so he's not exactly cream of the crop.
no. There's a reason why people want him as a teammate. And that's the best way to look at it, really. When
Really
Esteban
backhand.
Ocon wants you as a teammate, there's something in that.
There's something in that. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Right. I think we've covered everything for this week. We've got up to the 26-minute mark. Anything
It's
else
gone
you want
that
to touch
quick.
on? It's gone that quickly. I think to try and target an hour after this slow news week is going to be a bit ridiculous. So
Oh, we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that.
we don't want to. We don't want to drag people along for the ride.
No. Could just end it there then, couldn't we? I mean,
We
there's nothing
could
really
do.
I can think about. Maybe there's a few things we can touch on next week. Otherwise, we'll be in a very difficult situation. We'll be there for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
introducing ourselves, and that being it.
Podcast. Hello, I'm Tom Archer. This is CJ.
Schumacher still not got a seat. See you next
Not
week.
going to see you next week. Bye bye. Yeah. Okay. Right then. Thank you very much, everybody who watched and listened. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.